Welcome, everyone. I'm calling this meeting of Finance and Administration Committee at the County of Renfrew on Monday, March 20th, 2023. It is, in fact, 9:30. Welcome, everybody. As we gather this, excuse me. My apologies. As we gather this morning, I would like to acknowledge on behalf of this committee and our community that we are meeting on the traditional territory of the Algonquin people. We would like to thank the Algonquin people and express our respect and support for their rich history, and we are extremely grateful for their many and continued displays of friendship. We also thank all the generations of people who have taken care of this land for thousands of years. Ms. Hill, has roll call been taken?
Yes, Chair, roll has been taken.
Thank you. Is there any disclosure of pecuniary interest or the general nature thereof? I see none. Could I get a mover and seconder for the minutes of the previous meeting held on February 16th, 2023? Moved by the member from North Algona-Wilberforce, second by the member from Laurentian Valley, or Laurentian Hills. My apologies. Oh, I got the I. Were there any errors or omissions? I see none. I'll call the question. All in favor? Thank you. And at this time, I will turn it over to Mr. Kelly for his administration report. Over to you, Craig.
Thank you very much, Chair, and good morning. Item number one is a short report today, but item number one is actually an interesting piece of information as we move forward in the organization. So early in the fall last year, I approached the HR team, and Mr. Billmore, of course, is behind me today, about doing a staff engagement survey. It's the first time in my memory that we had done one, and if we had done one, it's several decades ago, likely. So the survey reached out to all 900 employees, union and non-union, across all divisions, including the paramedics, including the long-term care homes as well. And I think we got about 400 respondents, I think, right, on that, which is a really great response, and got some really great feedback. And I do have a PowerPoint I'm not going to deliver today because I'm still working with the results, but wanted to share some themes that were coming out of that and share them to staff, actually, who are likely to watch this at some point. That basically coming up with 6 themes from the survey and some of the core considerations that staff is asking that we look at moving forward in this organization. So as you note in the chart, the themes of work-life balance and wellness, the relationship that they have with their manager, talent attraction, retention, career and development plans, or how they will work to develop their own careers moving forward in the organization, organization awareness and connectedness, and County of Renfrew culture and pride. So in the considerations, as we're seeing in a post-pandemic world, alternative work arrangements is and still remains a consideration for many staff on flex time, working remotely, condensed work week. We're seeing that more and more in many municipalities where they are pushing 35 or 40 hours of work into 4 days or alternate work weeks. So we're monitoring that, at least HR is, and reporting to me on those municipalities that have had success or not on these type of arrangements. In terms of management relations, we are looking at some early Q2 training for management staff. We've got a lot of new managers and directors across the corporation as we're seeing the change of the guard. So we're looking at bringing on some robust management training and working through that over the next year, and then moving forward on a regular schedule. Of course, talent attraction and retention more, and I see Mr. Quaid is on the phone or on the virtual. But my colleague in long-term care will recognize that retaining staff or attracting them is proving more difficult. So we're looking at referral programs and recognition programs. I'll call it Employee of the Month or referral fee for those. If I'm attracting a colleague of mine to one of our long-term care homes, they may receive a stipend to do that. So we're looking at those type of reward programs. and working with our staff to develop their careers. So many of our new recruits are looking at what programs do they take to successfully see their career take off over the course of their tenure here at the County of Renfrew. So of course we're looking at developing a plan for those staff who are interested in developing with us. And it worked through the pandemic. We eased off, I guess, as we got back in person, but these multi-departmental across-the-board Zoom meetings, because we're all at different locations throughout the county. 900 staff really want to hear from me, want to hear from our senior leadership team on a regular basis, so we're looking at rolling those out on a quarterly basis or a semi-annual basis to really show some synergies amongst others, just to have a chat and let everybody know what's going on in the corporation. So we're looking at doing at least 2 or 3 of those a year. And then as we move forward, developing that County of Renfrew culture and really branding us as one of the best places to work in Renfrew County, and making that statement as we move forward. So I'm excited. I think this is a great step forward as a corporation to see where we go, and we'll present more as we move forward with new policies and procedures and bring those to council for their consideration over the next several months. Chair, I'll stop with that piece of information before we go to the bylaw, I think, at this point.
Thank you. Very interesting. I'm looking forward to your PowerPoint. Any comments, questions, concerns about information item number 1? Councillor from North Algona Wilberforce, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to say I think this is an excellent idea that we're looking at this. Just recently watching some news articles on not just public but private industries that have gone to a 4-day work week, have not noticed any significant reduction in the production that they had anticipated. And in fact, have found that the employees are coming to work more excited or more rested sometimes than working a 5-day work week. So the alternative work arrangement, I think, is certainly something worth taking a look at. And I would have to agree that the staff meetings and shared communications, I know something that started with Mr. Morrow, I think is also a really great idea. And is a way of promoting the business of the county in a more effective manner. Thanks.
Thank you for that. Anything further on information item number 1? Seeing none, and we can go to bylaws, please.
Thank you, Chair, once again. To read it into the record, I'll just read the recommendation on the council remuneration bylaw, and that is that the Finance and Administration Committee recommend that County Council adopt the revised bylaw for remuneration of members of the Council of the County of Renfrew effective January 1, 2023, and further that bylaw 2022 be repealed, or sorry, 1222 be repealed.
Thank you. Can I get a mover and seconder to get it on the floor, please? Moved by the warden, seconded by the councillor from Laurentian Hills. Comments, questions, concerns? Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Perhaps just for context, I can give it a bit of a background for those who have, I'm sure they've all read it. They've done their homework, if you will, Chair. Yeah, I just wanted to point out that, of course, this is the remuneration bylaw that moves forward your salaries and your payments as county councillors. And note that this is the first year of the phase-in of the salary increase that was determined mid last year. And this will be the first of 4 years bringing that in. So just wanted to bring that to your attention.
Thank you. Comments, questions, concerns? Then I will call the oh, I'm sorry, Warden, please.
Two quick notes. I noticed item 2D, when it mentions if someone, the deputy warden replaces me at a function, that we reimburse them. Unofficially, what's happened is I asked Councillor Donahue to represent me at the change of command ceremony. So we were, the deputy clerk and myself were able to work something out so that he received a per diem. So is there a means of changing that to add deputy warden / county councillor, so that there is a mechanism to go ahead and reimburse someone for that?
That's a very good point, because at this time we don't have a deputy warden.
Chair, what I would recommend would be just an amendment by motion that you amend item 2D to include or delegate, however you want to phrase it, or delegate or designate or otherwise as yeah.
Certainly, I would make that motion, and after the word, after deputy warden, then it would be / or designate.
So the mover and seconder are happy with just a very friendly amendment?
Certainly.
Excellent, okay. Anything, no? Anything further? Then I'll call the question, all in favor. Oh, sorry, Warden.
Sorry, and again, when we talk about expenses, I've had a personal policy that I've extended through my own reach that we not reimburse for alcohol. And I'm wondering if that should be included in this, or it's just a, as a go forward, maybe it's just a memo, from me through to council. But I think it sets a good example if we include it in this policy.
I'm sorry, I missed the first part of your statement.
I have a personal bias that we don't cover alcohol when county councilors are out of function. So whether it's a memo from my office through to county council, or whether we include it in this, I think it should be noted.
It's
The chair, if I can. So I think what the warden is referring to is item 8 on your bylaw. Item 8 would suggest that meals, gratuities, and incidental expenses. It does not specifically say or omit alcohol. I've seen some policies where they will put excluding alcohol in terms of language. It's entirely up to you. For staff's purposes, it might be cleaner if it said excluding alcohol, quite honestly.
Yeah, it would be.
Just to take any question out of it. But I will seek your guidance on this one, or seek your direction.
I'm open to, I think it should exclude alcohol in print. I mean, I don't think any of us, and Rose can confirm, I don't want to call anybody out, but I don't think any of us we don't expense alcohol. I know this because I like going out with the warden where he pays.
And as you're aware, the warden ends up with 2 tabs, one for the warden's card, which is food.
That's
and
right.
There's his personal visa, which is...
Oh, yeah, I should have said go out with Peter.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
absolutely.
And upper management notices when I have my second card. And so, yeah, I would suggest again, that possibly we do an amendment that adds a sentence which would exclude the invoicing of alcohol after a practical period.
Is that okay?
Through you, Chair, what I would suggest is just in parentheses after incidental expenses, just putting the words excluding alcohol. I think that would suffice.
Yep.
Perfect, thank you.
Yep.
That's my amendment, thanks.
Okay, and you're okay? Everybody's good with that? Anything further? They've got a caucus going at the back. I just want to make sure I'm not missing them.
No, they're probably debating whether it's a motion or just an amendment to this one. I think this is more substantive. I think we should probably suggest that it's a motion on this one.
It is a motion on
I'll make the motion, yeah.
Yep. All right, so, okay, the councillor from North Laguna Wilberforce is going to move that, and I'm assuming the warden will second it. Excellent. So I've got this on the floor now, so all in favor of excluding alcohol? Excellent. And now I have to go back to the original motion, correct? With the friendly amendment? Okay, as amended. All in favor? Excellent, that carries. And could I get a mover and seconder for the report as a whole, please? Moved by the member from Laurentian Hills, second by the member from North Laguna Wilberforce. Anything further on the administration report? All in favor? Thank you. And now we will go to the Corporate Service Department report. Mr. Foss, will you be doing this, or do you want Daniel to do it? I see you waving at me.
Yes, I will present the report. Thank you, Chair.
Excellent. Then you go ahead, Mr. Foss.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair, and good morning, members of the Finance and Admin Committee. The Corporate Services Department report begins on page 7 of the package today, and item number 1 is the 2023 final budget, and certainly attached is Appendix 1 is the final County of Renfrew consolidated budget, including all of the items that were approved at the budget workshop, which took place on February the 22nd and the 23rd. The revised budget, of course, reverses $699,000 in proposed service level reductions, and also provides for $811,000 in additional funding for service enhancements, for a total expenditure increase of $1,511,000. And just to note that the increase in expenses was not financed through the increase in the county levy. Rather, council approved a reduction in the transfer to our tangible capital asset renewal reserve. Our municipal levy was 5.5%, and this change brought it back down to a 2.5% municipal levy increase, not including CVA growth. Item number 2, council remuneration, attached as Appendix 2, is the statement of remuneration expenses paid to County Council for the full calendar year 2022, ending on December the 31st. Item number 3 is really just a note that on Tuesday, March the 14th, we held a virtual tax policy working group meeting with all of the local municipal treasurers. We had some good discussion, as always. Not an awful lot of decisions had to be made with respect to changes to our tax policy, simply because we're not dealing with reassessment. And of course, committee will be aware of the fact that the Municipal Property Assessment Corporation has not indicated when the next market-based reassessment will take place. And so what we're really looking at doing is phasing in year number 2 of a ratio reduction in our industrial class. Last year, we began that reduction to move toward the provincial threshold of a broad industrial ratio of 2.63 compared to the residential rate. And so we are going to phase that in this budget year. That will, of course, have a slight impact on all of the other tax classes as we shift some of that municipal levy burden away from the industrial class. But from this point forward, we will be able to pass a full budgetary increase on all classes equally, whereas before we were restricted with the industrial class. Item number 4 is policy GA06. It's our investment policy. And the policy requires that the treasurer on an annual basis reports to council on the investment activities as per the requirements of Ontario Regulation 438/97. And we have attached 2 investment reports for you. Both comes from our broker, BMO Nesbitt Burns. Item number 1 is the County of Renfrew portfolio, and then as a separate and distinct corporation, the Renfrew County Housing Corporation portfolio, both reported as at December the 31st, 2022. And in conjunction with this particular policy, the treasurer must present an opinion, and that is that these investments were made in accordance with our investment policies and goals previously adopted by the County of Renfrew. Item number 5, just an update on Provincial Offences Court workload. Committee will reference the very first column toward the left-hand side, total charges received, and you can see that there is a significant reduction in charges sort of through the November, December, January, and now February period. This historical trend we see on an annual basis. We are again looking to see if those total charges will get up towards an average about 850 charges per month to get our annualized total charges back to about 10,000 charges. Item number 6, just a comment again, or a chart with respect to the POA court and backlog. And you will see that in the month of February, we originally had 5 courts scheduled, and 2 of those courts were canceled. Not our decisions, of course, but canceled by the Regional Senior Justice of the Peace. We are still not operating our satellite courts in Renfrew, Deep River, and or Killaloe. And the backlog remains significantly high. Item number 7, Madam Chair, is a resolution, and I will just read out that particular recommendation.
Could we just do information first, please? Sorry, I should have stopped you there at the beginning. Okay, let's go back to information. Item number 1, the 2023 final budget. Warden, please.
Thank you. I'm glad to see the item about the provision of services for an independent contractor to update the long-term financial plan and a review of the asset management plan, because I've often thought, and never quite put voice to it, but I think it's probably time for that, so that it's not something the department has the responsibility for constantly refining, that once there's a document, they're the keepers of the document, and I think it probably will reduce some of the struggle or intellectual struggle, of being the author of the document, but then also having to implement it and tweak it and fine tune it. And I look at the development charges model, where the document is presented by an outside company, and often will provide some interpretation as well on an ongoing basis to the document, which allows staff to then just carry on the function of monitoring and fulfilling the obligations of the document. So I think this is a really good step, and I'm glad to see it.
Thank you for that. Anything further on number 1? Seeing none, I'll move on to information item number 2, council remuneration. Number 3, the 2023 tax policy. Number 4, the investment policy. Member from Amherst Bromley, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm quite appreciate the appendix in the investment policy. It does make reference to the portfolio report as of the year end. What I'm bringing forward is from 2015 through, these are the years, in fact. So as we are meeting here in 2023, this is with respect to the 2022 investment report. So keeping that in mind, with respect to the inclusive of the 2014 through 2018, there were no attachments, and this was exclusive, contained within the report itself, which probably was curated from the reports that BMO Nesbitt Burns does provide to staff. But I found or let me finish, I guess, that train of thought. So that was the standard template in those years. For the 2018 year and 2019, it could be considered a hybrid, where that report continued in the main corporate services report, and then there was an attachment that was the portfolio summary. And then beginning in 2020 through this one, there is essentially nothing within the body of the report, and it is just an attached appendix. If it please the chair, perhaps if you would permit me to share my screen through the Zoom call, I could illustrate that for all present herein.
Who has the ability to allow? Oh, apparently you do. Yeah, and just so that the report that Michael is talking about is on page 67 of your report. It's way down past the budget.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I am one and the same as the councillor from Admaston Bromley, for those who may be confused. So you have in front of you, this is for the year ending 2019 that was seen in March of 2020, and this is contained within the report. And I'll just scroll. It's not my intent, Madam Chair, to go in depth in this report, but just to illustrate what it used to look like. There was a comprehensive reporting of the various accounts, but it also included, you'll note at the very top, the RAG, Renfrew and Area Administrators Group funds, which is still continues to be the vast, sorry, I shouldn't say the vast majority, but a significant majority of the funds held within it. These are the various investment types that you will see in this year's portfolio report. But then you also see this as a comparator across various different benchmarks. It is in a charted form herein. As you continue to scroll, you'll see further charting. Again, my intent, this is probably making some seasick. The numbers themselves I don't think are that germane, but you see this chart, which I think clearly identifies in a graphical instance what is the nature of the interest that is being earned. And then further charting here. Then finally, the compliance with the investment policies and goals. And then you see, as I'd indicated, this report was a kind of a hybrid report. And the attachment herein referred to in this section, I have that here. So this is similar to what we have before us this year. So where I'm going with this is that I think that there was some substantial information, and the curation, if you will, of the information was quite valuable in being able to fully grasp. I find the BMO charting very dense, and one can work your way through it. But I will also note that this, as you note, is a portfolio. Sorry, this is not a portfolio. This is a performance report that I have pulled up from that 2019 year. You'll note that in this year's report, it is a portfolio report that actually identifies each of the individual instruments that is held. So it seems to me that probably both of those are components of the BMO report that we receive on an annual basis. So where I'm going with this ultimately, Madam Chair, is I have a significant preference for the hybrid, wherein there is that curated report from the Treasurer along with the supporting documents, but I'm presuming that there is each of a portfolio report and a performance report. And the nature of the performance report, as you can see from the one you have in front of you right now on the screen, it does give you the history of what the performance has been over time, whereas the portfolio report does not contain that. So I'm at the point where I will certainly seek direction from the chair. If in fact this is to direct staff as to the template for reporting, then I would move that for this year's County Council and for all following years with respect to the requirements under Policy GA06, that it be a hybrid report and be based on the template of 2019's report, inclusive of both the portfolio summary and performance summaries from BMO Nesbitt Burns.
And do you have a seconder for that motion, please? Moved by the member from North Algona-Wilberforce. Discussion. All in favor? That is so directed. Thank you. Councillor from Mr. Bromley, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll just stop that right now. The other element that I had within this, and perhaps this draws in item number 1, which was the budget and the implications of the decisions made at the budget workshop, et cetera. So I know that I actually did up a chart, but I'm not able to find it on short notice right now. So consistently we are seeing in our investments held outside the Renfrew and Area Administrators Group, the value has been fairly consistent for about the last 6 or 7 years. It's ranged between $7 and $8 million. Over that same period, our total reserves have increased substantially, though I don't have that number at hand, but I'm speaking germanely only to the capital reserves. They've almost doubled over that same period. I'm talking about the probably 2017 through 2022. Rather 2021, we do not have the 22 numbers yet. But the audited report at the end of 2021, there were $52 million in capital reserves alone, and the value of our investments remains relatively static. In fact, this year I think it's gone down to 6.1 million. It was at 8.1 million at its height in 2018. In fact, there was a single $10 million GIC investment at that time, which was substantial interest being earned, substantial at that time being 2.83. So right now, what I'm speaking to is we are, unfortunately for those who are in debt financing, which includes the County of Renfrew and lots of individuals in our municipality, we are subject to some substantially higher interest rates than we have been seeing since the economic collapse or near economic collapse of 2008. Ultimately, though, there are some substantial interest being generated on investments over that same period. And I'm just wondering if there is anything that constrains us from having more, I will certainly adhere to blue chip, if you will, investments, that is through the chartered banks, the commercial banks, as is laid out in our investment policy, et cetera. But I think that I'm seeing one actually on this year's portfolio, just bear with me one moment, where I think I'm seeing 4.83 as a BMO GIC, which is substantial. And I'm just questioning if this is not an appropriate time, as we did in 2018, of perhaps taking advantage of the substantial interest earned with larger investments in these investment certificates.
So I haven't heard blue chip since grade 9 economics class, so that was a blast from the past. My only question, and I am totally in agreement with you, but I'm just wondering what kind of penalties are there if we liquidate to debt finance? Mr. Foss, I'll turn this over to you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I believe that the question or the comment from Councillor Donahue was with respect to considering some of our cash reserves and moving some additional money into our investment portfolio. And the documents in front of you today on page 67 of your report showing that we have $7.1 million invested with Nesbitt Burns. If I do draw your attention to page number 67, where you'll see the snapshot, if you will, at the end of the year of our entire investment portfolio. And the very last line is an investment that we renewed. It was a $400,000 investment on the 6th of December of 2022. And you'll see that 5-year, and we typically use a 5-year ladder GIC approach within our fixed income portfolio. You'll see that we were able to book an investment at 4.75% in December of 2022. The challenge, if you will, of moving some of our available cash into this particular portfolio is simply the fact that currently our return on our investment for our RAG portfolio is prime less 1.5%. Prime is currently running at 6.7%, so less our RAG agreement, prime less 1.5, gets us to 5.2%. So every dollar in every one of our current bank accounts today is earning 5.2% returns. And it's very difficult for us in the fixed income market to find any investments that will achieve a higher rate of return than we are seeing in the RAG portfolio. So we have discussions on an ongoing basis with our broker at BMO Nesbitt Burns, and the yield curves moving beyond 18 months are fairly flat. And so we're not able to really achieve targeted returns greater than what we're seeing in our RAG accounts. And so the decision is made on a fairly regular basis not to move additional funds into the BMO account because I can earn more funds than that currently in my RAG account. And so I think I think that was the question that the member was asking is, given the high rate of returns, why are we not looking at moving more of our available cash reserves into our investment portfolio? And certainly in the fixed income marketplace, we consider this on a regular basis, but the yield curves are such that I'm doing better by leaving the money right in my current accounts. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Follow-up, member from Amherst Bromley.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you through you to Mr. Foss. And of course, that makes eminent sense. I do. Has that essentially been our experience for several years? Because as I'd indicated, Madam Chair, just a quick analysis. I wonder if once again, if you could indulge me through screen sharing.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Okay, so I'm going to share this one.
Mr. Foss, are you able to see what the councillor is sharing?
Yes, I am.
Excellent, thank you.
So this ultimately is just a very quick analysis, and I have the numbers. In fact, where I drew the numbers, the blue line indicates the investment balances going all the way back to 2005, and those were drawn actually from the performance summary that was provided last year to the Finance Administration Committee. That is this blue line. That is the value in our portfolio. Where this line, I am only going back as far as the audited financial statements that I actually have on my hard drive, but you can see that there's a pretty big gap has opened up between the value of our investments and of the funds that we have available to invest. Now, certainly as Mr. Foss has explained, if in fact there's a better rate of return simply through the RAG investment, which is essentially just our holdings held within the bank, then that is the thing to do. But as we have seen that dramatically increase, there does seem to be an enormous gulf between those two amounts. Has that been our experience, going back, let's say, as far as 2018, when you've seen a significant leap, that in fact the RAG holdings are outperforming any of our GIC or other type guaranteed investments?
Thank you for that. Can you stop sharing and I'll call on, I can see, sorry. Mr. Foss, could you answer that or would you need some time?
No, thank you, Chair. Again, we're using a 5-year laddered GIC investment approach. So each time that one of our investment renews, we go through an analysis through discussions with our broker at Nesbitt Burns. We consider our current rate of return, and they're well aware of the fact that we have a preferential agreement, if you will, with the Bank of Montreal, earning prime less 1.5%. So we go through an analysis, kind of a cost-benefit analysis on where the break-even point would be for us in making an investment decision, whether to move money into, again, a laddered GIC, typically a 5-year term, although we have considered shorter terms over the last number of years, and what I can currently earn in my RAG accounts. The only time where it's preferred to move away from the RAG investment deal and toward moving money into a structured fixed income security is when the yield curve over the 5-year term is increasing. And we have certainly not seen that throughout the last number of years. We see a very flat yield curve. So the decision point has been to leave the money in our RAG agreements, simply because we can earn slightly better returns on our investments than we can in the fixed income marketplace. There are points in time, a number of years ago, late in the year, and it might have been in 2018, where we had an opportunity to move a significant amount of money. I think it was $10 million out of our RAG portfolio and into the fixed income security market. And I think it was simply a 12-month or 18-month term where we were able to reverse that position and earn more money within the GIC, the fixed income market, than we could with our RAG agreement. And so we quickly jumped on that opportunity and moved a bulk of funds across for a one-year term. And so we're doing this on a very regular basis. As I mentioned, each and every time we have an investment that renews, we go through this analysis. We make a decision based on the information that's available to us at that time. And similar to the situation that we're in right now, I'm earning more money in my RAG on every dollar in every one of my current accounts than I can in the GIC marketplace. And so we have left the monies within our RAG agreement. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. And again, supplementary, Councillor from Amherst Bromley.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair. And a final time, if I could be indulged in sharing my screen. This is actually the report that Mr. Foss is speaking to. This was a one-year investment that was taken out in 2018. I'll highlight it here for committee's ease of viewing, and that's what he was referring to. So in 2018, with a maturity in the next year of 2019, $10 million was invested, which took our investments from a close at 2017 of $8.5 million to 18.3. But there was a very attractive interest rate, as you can see, for that period of 2.83. So we do have, and Mr. Foss did explain that, and I'm very appreciative of that explanation. We do have the capacity on perhaps fairly short notice. The reason I'm putting this here is because I am still not prepared to stand on this, but I think that we have probably seen the last of the increases from the Bank of Canada. I have no crystal ball on when that overnight rate or that bank rate may begin to diminish, but I think there's probably going to be some opportunities to catch that wave as it's going back down, that I am very pleased that the Treasurer does have that capacity, along with Nesbitt Burns, of taking advantage perhaps of opportunities when they present themselves. So thank you, and I will stop sharing.
Thank you for that. That's why I asked about penalties, because it's wonderful to have that ability to utilize some of those monies, some of those investments, but I'm always worried about penalties if you try and take them out early. Yes, Councillor from Amherst Bromley.
Certainly sensitive to that, but if just drawing back, and I have it on my screen, when I showed that Excel spreadsheet, we essentially had about 30% of our capital reserves invested in 2018, and now we have probably about 12%. So the concern with being found to be in a cash flow crunch, I think is much diminished now than it was then, and that's all I am getting at, is that I think that the RAG, there's going to be a crossover in those curves, as Mr. Foss has been describing, where in the RAG at some point is going to be trailing behind what may be available on short-term investments. So I think that we're well placed to be able to take advantage of that. Thank you.
Excellent. Anything further on 4? Then I will move on to 5, the POA workload. Councillor from North Algona Wilberforce, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I'm just wondering, when we look at the previous 4 months and the number of charges that have dropped fairly significantly, if it's time to send another letter to the Provincial Offences Office to get a detailed explanation, what is causing this? Is it because the OPP is not filling vacancies? Is it because the charges are ramping up to levels where they don't feel that it's worth putting in more charges because a lot of them might get dropped? I'm just curious if maybe they could provide a little more background information.
As a cop's daughter, I'll tell you, it's cold outside. But I think what we're going to see, and we can certainly send another letter, but I don't know if anybody else noticed over the March break, our ride campaigns are really ramping up. I was stopped in 2 rides over the March break, so that should be an interesting influx. Mr. Foss, are you adverse to the warden perhaps sending another letter to the OPP?
Thank you, Chair. I believe that your response that comes from the Ministry of the Attorney General will be somewhat generic, may even be considered to be superficial, simply because of the requirement to separate the administration of the Provincial Offences Court from the activities of the enforcement agencies and the judiciary themselves. They may refer you to the local police services boards to talk about staffing levels or where the officers are scheduled, whether it's in investigations or criminal matters or whether it's Highway Traffic Act enforcement activities. You may get a response to that. I just, from history, I think the responses have been somewhat superficial, simply because of this requirement to separate the political side of the administration of provincial offenses and the enforcement judicial side, if you will. But certainly not averse to it. Thanks.
So that's why I suggested the OPP and not the Solgen. You kind of nailed it there, Mr. Foss. I'm just wondering, or even the PSBs around the county. You know, what are the staffing levels? Do we have a good handle on each detachment? Warden, do you want to weigh in?
Well, I think anytime you ask questions, it's a journey. So I don't suspect, and I'm not being sarcastic. I just know, I suspect we'll not get an answer within 30 days. It'll be a bit of a chain letter. We might find something by August. And I suspect, you know, that they'll direct where we should send the letter. So I would suggest we start at the top of the chain and just follow the process. It's not going to be a quick answer. And you know, we can ask members of county council to gently inquire locally at their own police services board to get a sense of what the staffing levels are locally, unofficially, or softly, and then we can proceed from there.
Okay, I like that. Yes, Councillor from Abbotston Bromley.
Actually, I'm going to take a slightly different tack than the councillor from Renfrew. I'm recognizing, of course, that Deep River has their own police force. They are not policed by the OPP, and I would not deign to perhaps put my colleague on the spot. I don't know what their experience may be in Deep River. But what I am saying is, and I understand completely the separation, that the County of Renfrew does not have anything to do with policing and enforcement in the communities. That is the lower tier communities. For all of us save Deep River, that is the OPP. So it has become my routine. I've memorized, I suppose, the comment, which is, I would love to say that we are seeing a decrease, actually, in activity subject to the POA courts. I am disinclined to believe that is the likelihood. These things do not tend downwards from a metadata perspective. That what we are seeing clearly will have a pretty direct connection to what is happening in our communities. Now, I do not know, nor would I deign to enter into any discussion of directing what our policing activities are doing, but we are seeing a pretty substantially increasing divide in actual fines being laid in our communities. And unless, in fact, there is a diminishment in the rate of offenses, then we are seeing data points that are suggesting that there is less enforcement. So I think that it regardless of whether the correspondence may generate a pro forma response, I think clearly it is in our interest to continue to make public that there is that increasing delta for each of the lower tiers in here, and that is, of course, inclusive of the town of Deep River. We are paying for proactive policing, which is being out in the community and enforcing those laws that are subject to the Provincial Offences Act offenses. So I think that clearly it is warranted to have a letter from the warden expressing our concern with the level of activity that is being reflected in our POA offenses.
Okay, so I think that this is a broad discussion that we need to have with all of County Council so that they're all aware that they need to go back to their PSPs. So what I will ask is, Councillor from North Algona Wilberforce, are you then putting a motion on the floor that the warden that F&A recommends to County Council that the warden forward a letter to the Sol Gen, Michael Kersner, regarding provincial offences?
I would move that.
Do you have a seconder, sir? Moved by the councillor from, seconded by the councillor from Ameston Bromley. Any concerns with that? All in favor? So that will go to County Council and we can have the discussion about, please take it back to your own neighborhoods and let's find out what's going on. Yes, the member from Deep River, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Well, I don't have 2022 staff. I'll start off by saying that the Deep River Police Service is fully staffed, just so everybody's aware. And I would just say that while I don't have 2022 data, that the activity levels with our police service are relatively consistent. Although I would point out that between the years of 2018, where we used to do about, or the Deep River Police Service would do about 500 ride checks, the year 2021, they did over 3,000. And I suspect that for 2022, that's 4,000. It's weekly, daily basis now. So activities have increased in our part of the county. And I would also caution that even though the town of Deep River has a standalone police service, they are their own organization. While the town of Deep River provides their budget, that is all we do and that is all we can do. Even through the Police Services Board can has oversight, but even the Police Services Board cannot tell the police service what and how to do things. So I just
And I don't think the intention of the motion was to delve into the operations of the OPP or the Deep River Police service. I think the question is, and it's good to know that you're fully staffed, but say for James and I, is Killaloe detachment fully staffed, and what stats are we seeing at our Police Services Board? I think that was the intention of the motion, correct? Excellent. All right. Anything further on 5? I will move on to 6, the backlog. Councillor from Laurentian Hills, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Foss had mentioned that the satellite offices are still not working, or they're still not being staffed. Is that a staffing problem?
Mr. Foss, would you like to answer that, please?
Thank you, Chair. It certainly is a staffing problem, but not at the County of Renfrew level, not within our Provincial Offences Administration Department. The staffing issues or challenges are with the Ministry of the Attorney General. And we've had significant challenges. We've experienced the significant challenge because the province of Ontario has had some recruiting challenges with their Justice of the Peace. And although there was, at the end of 2022, there was a significant recruiting that took place across the province, and certainly impacted positively in Eastern Ontario with our own prosecutor, Ms. Jennifer Grant, moving from being a provincial prosecutor to being hired by the ministry to be a justice of the peace. We won't see that individual sitting behind the bench for 12 to 18 months as they go through their own training and orientation sessions. So, and I believe our chair at the Finance and Admin Committee has made the comment a number of times that the website is still not open for applications to be received for the next tranche, if you will, of Justice of the Peace positions to be replaced across Ontario for the 2023 period, which of course they won't be available until late of 2024. So the challenges that we're seeing are not County of Renfrew staff. They are definitely with the Ministry of the Attorney General and the recruiting and replacement of Justice of the Peace across the province. Thank you.
Thank you. And it's sort of funny that you mentioned that, Mr. Foss, because in prepping for today's meeting, I actually went on the website. It is, in fact, 2 months since the Roma conference where I asked the question and, in fact, gave the Attorney General the heads up that I would be asking, and it's still not open, and there's no explanation why. So that is something I am going to keep on keeping on. Anything further on 6? Seeing none, then I will pass it back over to you, Mr. Foss, for resolutions.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So on page number 9, beginning item number 7, the resolution, and I'll read the recommendation into the record, that the Finance and Administration Committee recommends that County Council approve the changes to Employment Bylaw number 1, effective January the 1st of 2023. That would be to Article 4, the rates of pay, and a 2.0% wage increase for all non-union staff except the student schedule outlined in Schedule A, and further that the revised Employment Bylaw number 1 be adopted. Certainly the background on this is now that we have an approved 2023 County of Renfrew budget, we were directed to build the budget with a 2% non-union wage increase into those for COLA, into all of the rates within all the departments. And so this would be the culmination of that process with this employment bylaw. Thank you.
Thank you. Can I have a mover and seconder, please? The warden, seconded by the member from Deep River. Discussion. All in favor? Thank you. And number 8, please, the corporate policies.
Item number 8 are changes to 2 corporate policies within the human resources area of responsibility, and the recommendation reads as follows: that the Finance and Administration Committee recommends to County Council that the revised corporate policy CO2 pension plans and G07 employee and family assistant program be approved, and further that a bylaw to amend bylaw 6303, being a bylaw to establish human resources corporate policies and procedures for the County of Renfrew, be adopted. The 2 items, the background on the 2 items are simply the fact that OMERS, item A, CO2 pension plans, OMERS has made a substantial change to the rules with respect to other than continuous full-time employees joining the plan. Full-time employees are required as under our policy, and certainly under the OMERS policy, as an OMERS employer, they are required to join the pension plan immediately. But other than continuous full-time employees, traditionally or historically had to wait for a 2-year period. And within that 2-year period, they had to prove that they were either earning at least 35% of that year's YMPE, or having 700 hours of paid time in each of the preceding 2 years. Effective January 1st, 2023, that waiting period has been removed, and all part-time employees can make an election to join OMERS at any point in time whatsoever. The only rule is that once they join, they cannot then opt out of the plan. And item B which is GO7, Employee and Family Assistance Plan, really just making the change to highlight the fact that we have changed to a new service provider effective January the 1st of 2023, and we wanted to ensure that we embedded that within that policy. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. I will ask for a mover and seconder, please. Moved by the councillor from North Algona-Wilberforce, second by the councillor from Edmundston Bromley. Discussion. Councillor from Deep River, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So seeing the changes in the OMERS plan that would allow for part-time employees, recognizing that county councillors have never been classified as employees, I guess I would just, so does this change, would this change allow the County of Renfrew to include county councillors in the OMERS pension plan?
Mr. Foss.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Councillors are a bit of a unique group for all municipalities across Ontario. They are entitled or allowed to join in the OMERS pension plan, but it does require a resolution or a bylaw from County Council to make that happen. So there's a special procedure or a special set of steps that we must engage in. We have not done that previously, but the opportunity is there, and obviously would require a decision by County Council to move forward in that direction, and then to allow councillors to join the OMERS pension plan. I would have to check on the rules to see that whether we can have councillors opting in or opting out the same way that other than continuous full-time employees can do. It may mean that all councillors may have to opt in at the same time, but those are the nuances of the OMERS rules that I would have to look further into, but the opportunity is certainly there. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, and you are correct. We are a unique group of people. So, a member from Deep River, you're okay if Jeff does some spelunking into the wild world of OMERS to get you that answer? Excellent. All right. Anything further on number 8? All in favor? Thank you. And the report as a whole, can I get a mover and seconder, please? Member from Laurentian Hills, seconded by member from North Algona-Wilberforce. Anything further on corporate services? All in favor? Thank you. Is there any new business? Warden, please.
Thank you. Just letting you know, you may see a new face in chambers over the next month following me around. I've been asked to be a mentor to someone who is taking a Master's of Public Policy and Administration from Carleton. And the idea is that they would accompany me and participate in activities over the next 8 months. So I'll let you know more about it as soon as the whole thing gets approved. It should be approved, I think, on Friday, and I'll get their permission to release their information. Thank you.
Excellent. That's one way to recruit. Yeah, that's amazing. Is there any other new business? Member from Edmundston Bromley.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and in fact, your comment was prescient. I was going to ask the warden if, in return, there is any mandatory, like 1-year service or something upon the successful conclusion of the Masters of Public Administration to find a role within the municipal administration of the County of Renfrew.
Not that I'm aware of. I will know more details in the next little while, but I think it's part of their master's program is to focus on municipal social policy, and this person has a background in political economy, anti-poverty advocacy, and social services, and seemingly my profile matches up with that.
It's like politicalmatch.com. All right, I think that's very interesting, but I do like where Councillor Donahue was going with the, we'll mentor you, it's like doctor recruitment, right? We'll get you in with a little bit of money, but now you give us a year. Any other new business? I see none. We have no closed meeting. Excellent. And the date of our next meeting is Thursday, April 13th, 2023. Spring will be in the air. And at this time, I will ask for a mover and seconder to adjourn. Member from Deep River, member from Laurentian Hills. Anything further? All in favor? We are adjourned. Thank you. Tyson, take us out.